Gosh, this is going to be an incredible thing. I am Shelley Rouser. I am the chair for the Education Department here at Delaware State University. We are excited to host you. Thank you for helping us break in this amazing new space. We hope that we spend many hours, days, whatever it takes to get the job done when it comes to early childhood in this space. When we built this space, and it was a fun time doing it. It's great to see so many familiar faces. But when we built this space, we built it with several intentions in mind. Our children, our baby hornets, our nest, we call it, is on the first floor. First and foremost, our babies. We have always had in mind that this would be the very kind of thing that happens in this space, that we would be gathering the movers and shakers, the ones just rolling up their sleeves and making magic happen every day in this space. So we have every intention that this space is going to get working in the years and the weeks and months to come. And of course, on this second floor, if you haven't seen all of the spaces, sometime during break, just to look around, you have this incredible team led by Dr. Kim Krasnowski. And the Early Childhood Innovation Center is committed to doing whatever it takes, unapologetically, to make sure that while we're fighting these big, hairy, audacious goals for early childhood professionals, that we are making movement, and movement is being made by the work that the ECIC team is doing, by making sure that we're just investing, pouring into the early childhood workforce. And so the gains are incredible, and we're going to keep at it. It's truly a dream come true to have our first major event be this one, the Early Childhood Advocacy Day. In this room, we have so many dedicated advocates, educators, policymakers who understand one simple truth, that early childhood is the foundation of everything. Woo! We're here today because we know that the first 5 years of life are not just preparation for quote-unquote real learning later. They are real learning. They are when brains are growing the fastest, when language is blossoming, when social and emotional skills are taking root. And yet, despite everything we know, despite all the science, despite what our heart tells us, despite our lived experiences, early childhood continues to be underfunded, undervalued, misunderstood, and inaccessible for too many families. This is about more than just numbers, although numbers do matter. 90% of brain development happens before age 5. High quality early care and education improves long-term health, we know. Every dollar that's invested in early childhood yields $7 in return. Where do we get that ROI? And teachers with degrees in early childhood education are vastly underpaid from their K-12 counterparts. So the numbers matter, but it is about more than the numbers. This is about justice, this is about equity, and it's about opportunity. And that is the heart that went into making sure that we put this structure and the early childhood innovation systems in place. It's about early educators, many of them women of color, who provide essential care but are paid poverty rates and wages. This contributes to systemic inequities in compensation and recognition. It's about building a future where every child, no matter their zip code or family income, has the same shot at thriving and has access to the best start to their learning. So today, I ask you to continue to lift your voices to call for the things we know matter most. Increased investment in early childhood and early learning. That will come in the form of fair wages, affordable and accessible childcare for every family, along with scaling the initiatives that the ECIC has rooted in the past few years. It also comes with continuing to fight for a need for professionalization, and that is others' recognition of the professionalization that we already know exists in the field, and investments through real solutions that will make a real difference. Wage parity, subsidies in public investment for child care programs, support for credentialing and pathways, and benefits like healthcare and paid leave, retirement. And to be clear, this is not just about advocating for programs. We're fighting for a future where every child is seen, supported, and given the strongest possible start. When we talk about the future for our children, we must also talk about the future of the people who care for them. Woo! Yes. The early childhood workforce is the backbone of our economy, and yet they are among the most unrecognized, and we are aiming to change that. And I know that you all, the party is just starting here, and I know what's happening. The real party is going to be downtown. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your unwavering support. I'm seeing so many faces that I see in every opportunity we have to gather and make some noise. And I look forward to meeting those of you who I haven't met. Have a fabulous day. Welcome again to Delaware State University, and continue to make this your home as you make amazing things happen. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. And a big shout out to Shelly and the whole team for having us. We're your official opening event, so thank you. It smells new and it's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having us. Well, I want to just give a couple remarks, and then we're excited to have the governor and his baby here. I'm Madeline Byard from Rodell, and Jamie Schneider's here with me to introduce the day. Oh, thank you. Just want to give you a sense of what we're up to today. So we have the governor coming. I don't want to, not much further ado, but just want to give you a sense. We have a video message from U.S. Representative Sarah McBride. The entire agenda and talking points can be found if you use this QR code. We're going to have a quick federal update, and then a conversation with the Lieutenant Governor. We have great panelists here, economic development panelists, parents, and programs. We have DOE here represented, and then a bit of an advocacy workshop before we take a break and head over to Legislative Hall, which we'll get lots more instructions about, and have lunch over there and legislator meetings. So thank you all for being here. And just a little bit of a reminder about who we are, what we're up to, why we're here. This is a group of many, many people. We had 200 people register for today. I think we have over 60 organizations represented. These are some of the meetings. It's a great crowd. It gets bigger every year. These are some of the leading organizations, but we're all about publicly funded, high-quality early care and education, mixed delivery settings for birth to 5. And also advocating for birth to 12, but when we say pre-K, we mean before K, so birth to 5. So just want to give you a sense of what we're about, what we're up to, and you'll see the QR code throughout the day, which has the materials, as well as your folders. If you didn't get a folder, we have more out front. All right, Jamie.
So why are we here? Where did we come from and what did we do? We have had big wins, and they can't go without talking about, and they are because of everyone in this room. We increased our state-funded pre-K to serve 200 more kiddos. We increased the market rate, and we went to statewide parity. That was a 50-year advocacy fight. We didn't do that alone. I know we'll be hearing from her later, but well, both of them, one virtually, one in the room. But our then Senators Gay and McBride wrote the legislation to ensure that we had statewide parity. That legislation didn't pass, but you know what happened? It became policy the next year. So it really does matter what we're doing, because without that, we wouldn't be there. Our family co-payments were reduced for 75% of the families on purchase of care. Providers are paid for 10 absence days instead of 5. We've expanded eligibility to 200% of the federal poverty level. Is it enough?
No.
Is it enough? No. Okay. That's why we need to do more. Thanks for helping me out. We need to increase eligibility. A family of 4 at 200% of the poverty level is making $14.99 an hour. What's our minimum wage? $15 an hour. So our families are not able to qualify for the subsidy that is there to ensure that our workforce is working. So we need to get that up to at least 300% of the federal poverty level. We need to increase our purchase of care rates, because our providers that are serving families with purchase of care are doing it in a deficit. There is no way to talk any other way about it. We're not meeting the cost of care, and we need to be. And not only do we need to be meeting the cost of care, but as Shelley said, it's our workforce that is the backbone of our industry, and that workforce cannot thrive, not survive, They're not surviving. But they cannot thrive without higher wages, full benefits, and a profession that is recognized as professional. The other thing we need to do is we need to increase our special education rates. Families with children at birth who have children that are recognized with special needs are the most unlikely to be able to find care and find appropriate care for their children. And we know that the first 5 years is the most important in every child's life, but that early intervention, especially for children with an identified special need, is more important than any. And we have to be able, as providers, to support those kiddos, but it takes extra money, it takes extra support. So that's what we're talking about today. And then I also I think I'm just going it, okay? That's what I was doing. I have the absolute privilege to welcome in our governor, and I think he's bringing a special guest as well. Okay, awesome. And Levi. Fortunately, Levi was basically born into rooms of crowds, so it was not overwhelming for him. His meter of developmentally appropriate is a little bit different than everybody else's. But I'm excited to introduce Levi's father, Governor Matt Meyer, to us today. In his campaign, in his State of the State, he recognized the importance of early education, and while I don't need to say that for him, and I will let him say it, we want to thank him for his continued support.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Good morning, everyone. I always think that.
I think there's a few people.
Yeah, a few people. Anybody here know how to help me out? He's actually, to be frank, hi, I'm Matt Meyer, I'm governor. Many of you I know, but we actually have a child care crisis this week in our family. Our no joke, normally I don't, like, my staff is always like, bring Levi to this event, bring Levi. I'm like, it's not that, like, you want me to be at Rehoboth at 10 a.m., that's nap time, like, it ain't that easy. But our provider had a family crisis, and so she told us Friday we were on our own this week. And my wife is an emergency room doctor, she took yesterday, I have today, Grandma and Grandpa have tomorrow, so we are juggling around. Luckily, yeah, when I looked at the schedule today, I said I think there are a few people who can help me out if I'm into trouble, but it's great to see everyone here. How many people here are child care providers? Child care providers? Good, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Many of you may know I was a public school teacher. I started teaching through a program called Teach for America that places people willing to teach in high needs environments, sort of wherever they're willing to go. How you doing, Governor Earl? You're coming later, right? It's good to see you, Greg. I got placed in a 4th grade in Teach for America in Washington, D.C. And I really wanted to teach high school math. I was a math computer guy, and maybe he will be one day too. We'll see. It's up to him. It's up to him. But I was a math computer guy, and I got placed in 4th grade, and my first reaction was 4th grade. Like, I want to do middle school, high school math and computers. 4th grade, they're so small. Like, what am I going to do? And about a week and a half into teaching, I realized they weren't too small. Many of them were too big. There's an adage, you can only bend a tree when it's young. I actually ended up doing a little bit of kindergarten teaching in the school. I was like the technology guy. And even at kindergarten, I learned that kids coming in at 5 years old have such differences, and many are ready for school and many are not yet ready for school. And it's antiquated, the idea that school starts at 5. It was developed, over a century ago, and now with what we know about child development, we have to make sure we're living in a place where 0 to 4 are getting the services and the support that they need, and make sure their parents and caregivers are getting that support. I think it's not just an issue of building a future economy and an education system that works. It's also a basic question of equity in our community. Many of the inequities that we see across our community, you can see in 3 and 4-year-olds. And if we can invest to address those inequities at 2, 3, and 4 years old, really from birth, I think you will see dramatic change that will reverberate for generations to come. Now, statements like that are easy to say. When it comes to budgeting and policy making, it can be more challenging. I'm very fortunate to have a partner in this effort who's not just a mother of a couple of beautiful kids of her own, but has a wealth of experience doing this both in the private and public sector. And that's Lieutenant Governor Collins Gay, who I know you're going to hear from shortly. We've already had a couple conversations this week about this very issue. This is a challenging budget year. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The new general of the National Guard likes to say, let me give it to you sugar-free, right? So let me give it to you sugar-free. We're at a time when everyone's talking about the president, even without this president, we had a time when there was historic increases in federal funding the past few years coming out of COVID. A lot of organizations and agencies that learned to ask for $10,000 and $100,000s of dollars learned that they could get millions of dollars, just telling it to you sugar-free. And a lot of that is ending. A lot of that money came from the federal government, a lot of that is ending. So regardless who is president, a lot of organizations and agencies are seeing a new day and trying to figure that out, including a number of agencies within state government and local government. And then on top of that, you have stuff going on in Washington, right? Which I would say is a different philosophy of government than I believe in. The government of every person for themselves. The government ain't gonna help you out, right? You gotta figure it out yourself. In Delaware, that's not who we are. We're gonna do everything we can to make sure we make appropriate investments. Right now, we're just trying to figure out what that all means. But I want you to know you have the strongest partners in myself as your governor and Lieutenant Governor Kyle Evans-Gay. I also want to thank Daisy, the First Aid Pre-K Coalition, Rodale, the Delaware Readiness teams, and everyone who not only worked hard to put today's event together, but has worked so hard, as Jamie, I think it was Jamie, I was in the hallway, as Jamie was saying before, worked for decades and decades and decades to make real progress. Delaware is doing much better today than it was doing a couple of years ago, and far, far better than we were doing a few decades ago, particularly in making sure kids being raised in poverty have real opportunity from the youngest of age. We are determined to make leaps forward. Right now we're walking, right? In a few months, maybe a year, we'll be leaping. Hopefully not leaping into outlets and doing things big. But I have a proclamation I need to present. I like to say there's only one thing I can do without the permission of the state legislature or my wife, and it's present a proclamation. But this is one to which I know she would approve. And that is, today we're proclaiming today, he likes it. It's Early Childhood Advocacy Day in Delaware. And so we appreciate what all of you do. When I think about change and the kind of change we want to make in our community, it's hard to see any of that change lasting for generations without you doing the work that you're doing and us in government making appropriate investments to make that change possible. So thank you so much for what you do. I'm going to stay as long as I can. I want to hear some music coming.
Yeah, I think we're ready for
anyone
that.
here from Del State?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Del State, also for hosting as well. And without further ado, Danae.
Danae is going to introduce the students from the
All
law
right,
school
come on,
of
let's hear
Del
it for
State.
Danae. Thank you so much.
Text them to come on down. So big thank you, of course, to everyone in the room. The Early Childhood Innovation Center is a culmination of everyone's efforts. And so when we think about kids, right, I just want to let you guys know about, or remind you about some of the physiological and emotional responses we get when we see children. We know that they're the reason that we're doing what we're doing. Isn't it a great reminder to have them come in and see about how they're getting ready to go to kindergarten? Which would not be able to happen if it was not for early childhood, if it was not for their teachers doing everything that they could to prepare them to go into these larger spaces like public school. So the endorphins are the feel-good endorphins that we feel, the oxytocin, the love hormone, the dopamine, which is the reward chemical in seeing young children, and then of course it speaks to your parasympathetic nervous system. You're calm, your blood pressure comes down when they're singing. So this is our K-Prep class, so we're from the lab school. We have Miss River and Miss J, our village, our educators.
I'm never the tallest one.
And of course, once the lab school opens downstairs, such a great feeling to have a state-of-the-art lab school for our young ones who absolutely deserve it. We're going to be touring and showing everyone the space. We're super excited to get in there this summer, so feel free to come and check us out. Announce, of course. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. One more round of applause for Senator Day. We are now going to hear from U.S. Representative Sarah McBride, who could not be with us in person, but sent a video message.
Hi friends, Congresswoman Sarah McBride here. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person today, but I want you to know how deeply grateful I am for your advocacy and your presence in Dover. Because this day, This gathering is about something essential: care and education. It's about the caregivers who nurture our kids during their most critical years. It's about families trying to make it all work, to raise healthy children while juggling the cost of childcare and the demands of work. And it's about our economy. Because early childhood advocacy isn't just family policy. It's education policy, it's workforce policy, it's economic policy. When I talk about building a care economy, this is what I mean. An economy that recognizes and respects care work. One that invests in people, especially our children, no matter their zip code. That's why I ran for Congress, and why I'm so excited to lead a new care economy task force within our chamber. Because I want to be a part of a Congress that delivers quality, affordable early childhood education for all nationwide. When we invest in early childhood education, in the providers, educators, and advocates gathered here today, we're not just investing in you, we're not just investing in our kids, we're investing in communities, in futures, in hope. You are the builders of that hope. You are the reason Delaware's future looks brighter. So I want to thank each and every one of you and your partners in this work. You are doing the hard work of democracy and shaping a future where every child has the foundation for a fulfilling life. Remember this: your authority comes from your authenticity. Your care is changing lives. Your voices are shaping policy. And your hope and your commitment is contagious. Let's keep going together until every child in Delaware and across our country can learn, grow, and thrive. We can do this, and I'll be fighting alongside you every step of the way.
We are so fortunate in Delaware to have such champions in DC and in Delaware, and thank you again for being here. Great to have you, and Levi. Thanks for staying as long as you can. And you know, the federal picture doesn't always look as rosy as it does in Delaware. We've had a lot of questions about what does this mean for early care and education, so I want to welcome Albert Watt. The Alliance for Early Success has been a huge support to Delaware, so if you're ever wondering, oh, who helped us build that target wage scale, and what about that cost model, and what about that person that came and spoke at the Early Childhood Council, and what about all those fact sheets that you see? The Alliance really supports all our work with that, so can't thank you enough, Albert, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mallory. So Mallory told me I was going to follow the governor and Representative O'Brien, but not kids singing. It is tough. So good morning, everybody. My name is Albert Watt. I'm a Deputy Director at the Alliance for Early Success. We are a national nonprofit that supports state-level early childhood advocacy and policy work in all 50 states plus DC, so that every child in every state can and what they need to thrive. In Delaware, we're very proud of our long-standing support for Rodell and for their work in advancing policy and investments in early care and education. And I want to thank Malin and the Rodell team for having me here today. The first thing I want to say is I just want to first acknowledge that, as we all know, there's been a lot of uncertainty and chaos coming from the federal level, and I imagine a lot of that is hitting many people in this room, especially people who work in early care education programs, who run those programs, or other kind of direct service organizations. And I want to thank you for all the work that you do day in and day out. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're hanging in there and really take care of yourselves. So in these times, it's really important not only to push back on the threats that are coming from the federal level, but also at the same time push forward investments in Delaware that Delaware can still make to advance the well-being of young children and their families. In recent weeks, you may have heard a lot of news about different kinds of proposals of cuts to federal programs that serve children and families. And so far, just want to make sure everybody understands, these are all still proposals. These proposed cuts are not inevitable, and there's still a lot of opportunities for you all, everybody to engage your members of Congress and asking them to hold the line. So I want to talk about keeping our eye on two fronts right now at the federal level. Right now, Congress is putting together the budget for the FY26 fiscal year. And you may have heard a rumor a few weeks ago that the president was going to propose completely eliminating Head Start funding from his budget proposal. In the end, He kept Head Start funding in his budget proposal, possibly because there was a huge outcry across the nation against gutting this program. So in this moment, for that moment, speaking up seems to have worked. And now it's still possible for Congress, as they work through this budget, to include these cuts to Head Start or the Child Care Development Fund in the final budget. And so we have to still stay very vigilant about this. But remember, in order to pass the FY26 budget, Republican leadership in Congress has to work with Democrats. They can't pass a budget without the Democrats. So it's going to be very important, again, to keep the drumbeat going, tell the stories from your communities about how important these programs are, and to children, families, and the local economy, and make sure that your members of Congress have these stories and hold the line. The other thing to keep an eye on is the budget reconciliation process. So this is basically a legislative package that the Republican leadership wants to pass to extend the tax cuts that were enacted back in 2017. And to pass this package, unlike the FY26 budget, or to pass this package, I should say, they may not need votes from the Democrats. The Republicans can pass this vote pretty much by themselves. And in order to fund these tax cuts, the Republican package is looking to make deep cuts in things like Medicaid, TANF, SNAP, and the proposals under consideration will have devastating impact on children, families, and communities, especially those who need these safety net programs the most. They could also, if these budget cuts come to pass, remove a huge chunk of state funds from your own budget, from the Delaware budget. And so this would require your state to either reduce access to healthcare, income support programs, or to backfill this gap with your own dollars, which would then take away money from other priorities that you have in your state. So even if you don't usually pay attention to Medicaid, TANF, and SNAP, I would urge you to connect with your fellow advocates and other organizations that do pay attention to these issues and healthcare and economic justice issues, and really join arms with them to push back against these cuts. And finally, this is just really the beginning of the fight. There's a lot more work to do, and I think everybody can play a part in doing 4 things. Keep telling your stories, again, about how important these programs are in your communities. Show up at events like this, rallies and such, to demonstrate how much support these programs have in the local communities. Engage your members of Congress who I understand are very much for these kinds of programs, to make sure that they hold a line during budget negotiations. Give them the stories that you have in your community so that they can use those stories to advocate for you all. And finally, remind your state elected officials that more than ever now, Delaware needs to shore up investments in early care education and other programs for children and families. Because after all, if you know that a storm is coming, I think the last thing you want to do is leave your most vulnerable part of your home exposed to the elements. So this is the time to invest. And I thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work that you guys do on behalf of children and families. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. And for your ongoing support. Albert will be here all day if you have questions, but I think the most important thing is that we stay in touch with Albert and his colleagues to keep everybody here posted on what's the status and what's coming. So we will keep doing that. And now we have the pleasure of pulling up to the stage our youth governor, Gregory Earl, recently elected junior from Appoquinimink School District. He was going to interview our lieutenant governor, who's been a long-time champion for these issues. So welcome, and if you guys want to take a seat.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am thrilled to be here with you today. As previously mentioned, I have the honor to serve as the 58th Youth Governor of Delaware through the YMCA's Youth and Government Program. And thank you. And it is through the YMCA and Youth and Government that I first connected with Burdell. I had the opportunity to listen to a panel discussion where limited access to early care and other challenges facing our educational system were discussed. And I feel that early childhood education is a meaningful topic because it lays the groundwork for a child's future. The early years are a pivotal time for development, and quality education can lead to lifelong success and learning. And I also joined the advocacy efforts at Burdell because I believe that the youth voice can be a powerful catalyst for change, especially on critical topics like education. So I am very grateful to have the Lieutenant Governor here today, who is a strong supporter, to ask her a couple questions.
It's great to be here with you, and I will just say, in the event that you need someone to step in for your role, just remember, I'm always available.
I will keep that in mind. So if you could please introduce yourself, and then tell us why early childhood education is important to you personally.
I appreciate that, and it's great to be here with you all again, a little change of scenery from past years, but this is truly one of the most exciting days of the legislative session for me personally. I am Kyle Vinskay. I used to be a senator and came to you in that role before, but now as Lieutenant Governor, I'm really excited to do what we said we were going to do when we went up and down the state, which is to make the government make some more sense, make the programs make sense for families, for providers, and make sure that we increase equity and access across our state. We got a big part of the way there when we did the work towards county equity and making sure that we have reimbursement rates in each of our counties that match the Newcastle rate. I've heard in particular from Sussex County about the game changers there. I know that we can do more for families. I know we can do more in the co-payment space. And it is my goal to slowly and deliberately and intentionally get to a place where we start from our group and we build up by eligibility. Because I know that we can't just do something for threes or do something for infants or do something for 4-year-olds. We have to look at the 0 through 5 spectrum, and we have to dedicate ourselves to lifting everybody up in the best way we can. So thank you for the work you do. Thank you for the providers. And I just have the pleasure of going down and standing on the floor of the Senate sometimes and talking about the good work you do. You make it easy to be an advocate for all of you and the work you're doing.
Thank you. And you actually briefly touched on what my next question was going to be. But what are you hearing from your constituents and Delawareans across the state as to the challenges they're facing when it comes to early childhood?
It's a long list. And as governor, you have to get used to a long list. I'll touch on a couple, and I want to think about some of the places I've been recently. I think top of the list is that difference in help for students with disabilities and for students who need extra supports, 0 through 3. I had the tremendous opportunity to go and visit the School for the Deaf here in Delaware. And as many of the things that we talked about facing the community, 0 through 3 was top on their list. And the inability for often those families to get the supports that they need. Strong investment in early education means that students facing any type of disability get that early intervention, setting them up for success. And we know parents, when they come to care or they come to resources when their kids are 1st grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade, they can see the opportunity they missed. And it's my goal to make sure that every parent gets the opportunity and that we can support them in that journey. Of course, access to our subsidized programs through first shift care, ECAP, continues to be a challenge. My hope is that we continue to increase eligibility, and I know specifically for the providers in the room, the constituency there, I have heard about the challenges of working within that system. And my goal is from within the administration to make that system work better, not just for families, but for those individuals who are providing care as well.
Of course, thank you. And so this is a conversation and an issue that is very prominent, not just in Delaware, but throughout the country. And so there are a lot of Delawareans that are speaking to their representatives, their senators in the Delaware General Assembly. So my next question for you is what is most compelling to you and your colleagues in the General Assembly as it comes to the next steps that you're going to take?
I will say what's compelling from an argumentation standpoint, and then thinking about where we go, is you heard Shelley's comments this morning. Since the first time I heard the 7-to-1, return on investment for every dollar, and that's the conservative estimate. A lot of people use numbers from $12 to $15, and in some states, the studies show that. And I think I have been trying to make the business case for childcare, because as much as we in this room probably came to this space from a point of care, from a personal experience, from a professional experience, a lot of individuals who are making those decisions, those budget decisions, they're looking at dollars and cents. And this just makes sense from a dollars and cents perspective. And so I would encourage you to talk about your experience when you talk to your legislator, but also talk about that return on investment. And if we were to put the money that we put into juvenile justice, or absenteeism, or remedial education, or workforce redevelopment for those in their 20s and 30s who never got the fresh start, we would see that 10 times, right, in our early kids. And so I'm arguing for investing smarter and doing more with the dollars we have, in addition to adding dollars into the budget. I think that my colleagues, they want to see results. So what's compelling to them is the opportunity to change those kindergarten scores and those 4th grade scores. I have a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. I know that their early education opportunity means that they weren't having some of the struggles in different things. Do they still have their struggles? Sure, they're kids, and they're unruly a lot of the time, quite frankly. But they had every opportunity, and when I watch their little minds connect the dots, I think about every child in Delaware having had that fresh start and having had that opportunity for lifelong learning.
Thank you. And so, what are the barriers to expanding access?
Dollars and cents again, right? Yeah. I think we've continued to come together in this room and talked about the fiscal barriers that we have. And I want to talk about that. There is a fiscal barrier. This is going to be a challenging budget year. You heard the governor say it, and we've had to have those conversations with people across the state. That being said, we can be smarter with what we do. And so I think sometimes the real barrier is the lack of imagination or the lack of willingness to bend in a different way or to try something else. And I'm really excited to be working alongside the governor to soon, we're working on everything, but what we're designing is an opportunity for agencies to come together in a truly collaborative space so that I can help and the governor can help them make sure that we are implementing not just what we've always done, but implementing things that we believe will work. And then we're going to be coming to you all and asking you to continue to educate us and coming to you all to be honest with us about whether we did the right thing, an okay thing, or the wrong thing. And I'm going to be willing to move and shift with you as our situation, obviously from the federal side, moves and shifts as well.
Thank you. So states like New Mexico and Vermont and DC have made transformational changes. Their progress has been as innovative, such as New Mexico guaranteeing a right to early care and education through a constitutional amendment and investing $700 million last year to provide access to families up to 400% of the federal poverty level. Vermont went up to cover 575%. And then DC has universal 0 through 5. So my question is, what can we learn from states who have made changes like this?
And I think the answer is creativity and being true to yourself. We have to solve the Delaware problem. In New Mexico, they had a trust fund because of oil and gas money, right? In Vermont, they have an extremely homogeneous and rural population that is more straightforward to serve in a singular or a more, a less broad model, right? And in Washington, D.C., they have a lot of federal support, or at least had historically a lot of federal support in those spaces. I'm really excited in the coming weeks. A friend of mine is on the DC City Council. Her name is Christina Henderson, and she has been a tremendous advocate for this work. And in fact, we call each other up and kind of just check in. How are kids doing, right? And we're going to be together in a school talking about a lot of these issues. But she's scared, right? She's scared that the federal situation is going to hit DC harder than anyone because of their special circumstance. And so what I think is we need to solve the funding situation for Delaware. What are our assets? What do we have already? Where do we want to spend? And again, how do we want to be creative and doing things in a way that makes sense for 2025 and beyond? As many of you know, I'm still kind of new to this, right? I ran for office in 2020 with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, in part because this was hard for me as a working mom. And I want to make sure that I keep hold of that feeling and that struggle, and that I have K through 12 now. I've got, the elementary school and the blessed teachers that take them there now, right? But I still send my children to aftercare every day, and they are still alongside children in that program at the YMCA who are served by purchase of care and other programs, right? We cannot lose that why as we move forward, even as our littles get older.
So there are many phenomenal advocates in this room that are very committed to seeing the expansion of access. And so my last question for you is, what can advocates like us do to help?
I thought you were going to have to make me name all of them. That was a quiz. And I do, before I answer that, want to thank, in particular, GSU and ECIC and the work you've been doing has been tremendous. See it grow. To Madeline and Jamie and putting it. I know there might have been some folks, other folks at Rodell who were instrumental. Please give them my very best. And to all the advocates, the other thing I want to point out is that this is a unique advocacy day in that your government is standing in the audience with you. And so I just want to thank Caitlin Gleason for being here representing the Department of Education. This has always been a collaborative conversation. It hasn't always been an easy conversation, but I want to thank Caitlin and Betty Gale and others for being willing to come to those tables and have those conversations. And so as we move forward today, and as you go and knock on the doors of either your state senators or representatives or someone that you know, like I said, remind them that you are here because you have a connection to this issue and your story is important. Right? I used to say to people when I was sitting in my Senate office, I'm just a senator, right? Like don't treat me any differently. And I don't want you to treat them any differently. I want you to talk to them like they walked into your living room and here's the deal, right? Because they need to hear from your heart both the challenges and the successes of your early education experience. The kid that made a huge change after coming to you at age 3 and was so ready for kindergarten, right? I think about one story in particular that Mr. Robert from Kingswood shares with me about a student who ended up just going straight to first grade because of all of the extra help and support that they got in their pre-K programming. I want you to share those successes, and I want you to be really clear that this is the absolute smartest thing the state can do to help with workforce, to help with economic development, and to help with our long-term care economy so that kids can thrive and so that we are not paying down the road for our refusal to see the value in every child here in Delaware. And I know you can make that case much better than me, and I wish you the best of luck in doing it.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor Evans Gay, for your time today and the stories and the knowledge that you share. I know that we all value it and take it in, and I know as everyone goes down to Legislative Hall, the care and the empathy and the conviction for the situation will share. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you guys so much for being here. A couple things while we do the picture. Thank you, Gregory. It is amazing to have the youth voice here, and we will count on you to stand with us as advocates. All right.
Alright, we're gonna do one this way, and then we're gonna do one that way.
Everybody smile.
Yeah. Alright, everyone smile. 1, 2, 3. Early Advocacy Day!
Thank you so much. And I think that we should have governor is inviting us all into office this afternoon. So we will see you in Legislative Hall. Are the ladies from Lakeshore here? Can you give a wave? Mariah, Allie, are you here? I don't think they're here. Not yet. So Lakeshore gave us the giveaways, the toys that Levi was playing that you all have. And they are setting up a model classroom in the Lieutenant Governor's office later this afternoon. So stop by on the second floor and check it out. And now I'm going to welcome our economic development panel up. So Yvonne and Ayana and Carrie, come up here and join me. And I think while they come up, we're going to do a little bit of appreciation engagement. So anyone who is an early care and education provider, educator, has been one, would you please stand up so we can give you a big round of applause? If you've ever been a teacher, we thank you. We're going to hear from a future educator in just a bit. So before we do that, we're going to have a little bit of audience engagement and test out some technology here. So everybody get out your phone and either put in menti, menti.com, and this code, or use this QR code, which I think is also on the back. The code is 71562433. Can folks see that QR code? No. Yvonne, do you mind moving down? Okay, now can we see it? No, we still can't see it? How about now?
Yeah.
Okay, so who or what are you keeping at the front of your mind today as we have this amazing Advocacy Day?
So sorry.
71562433. I love this. My children, my nephew, educator supports children, children of color, early childhood providers, children with disabilities, staff, the little people. Love it. All right, keep it coming while we have our panel conversation here, and we will come back to this tool. So if you weren't able to get the QR code here, you can also try it in the back. Good? Anything else we need to say? Okay. All right. So we are really honored to have some economic development leaders from our state today. This Power Women panel up here that I'm very honored to moderate. And I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their organization and the connection to this issue.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Ayana Khan, founder, president, and CEO of the Delaware Black Chamber of Commerce. At the Delaware Black Chamber of Commerce, we are very unapologetic and specific about advocating and providing access, resources, and opportunities for marginalized business owners, the underrepresented business owners who've been overlooked for quite some time here in the state of Delaware. Thank you.
Yeah, we all can.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne Deadweiler. I am president of the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce. So we represent businesses in Newcastle County, but we do advocate for the workforce. We advocate for family businesses. We advocate for all businesses in Newcastle County. And our primary focus in this particular subject is making sure that businesses and families have access to affordable childcare, and also businesses that have started, daycares and early education centers, and how can we support them to making sure that they launch their business in the right way and having all the necessary information that they need to know to make sure they're successful. Thanks.
Hi everybody, good morning. My name is Carrie Leichman. I'm very proud to be the president and CEO of the Delaware Restaurant Association, and your allies in this issue. Have been talking about this for a long time because from a business perspective, we're the largest small business industry sector in the state. We employ 53,000 individuals, the majority are women, which fall with this issue. A lot of these issues fall heavily on women. 60% of this industry is made up of women. Difficult issue for us because we're not an industry that has 9-to-5 jobs. So issues where it affects Sussex County, we'll talk more about that. What makes our industry great with flexibility makes it really tough to advance in certain parts of our industry. So we've been talking about this for a long time from a small business industry perspective and a women perspective. So what I like about this is now you're talking to women in economic development and business to add value and strength to your story. So super happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you all for being here. And now let's hear a little bit about what you're hearing from your members, employers, small business, medium, large, up and down the state. What are you hearing regarding childcare, and what issues are they facing with their workforce? Who wants to start?
Well, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot, especially now with this administration, right? It's a struggle for families. We're looking at where, some small business owners have also part-time jobs, full-time jobs to supplement their income. There's a lot of layoffs coming in that are affecting these businesses and they're affecting our economy. There are a lot of folks that, have to think outside the box and rely on families, extended families and their communities and their villages now to take care of their children. We have businesses that have to have specific and special hours because of the child care issue. So it's a lot of issues. So when you look at a business sometime and you go to that specific business and their doors are closed and you're like, well, it's the middle of the day. Think about it. Don't bash that business. They're having challenges, child care, staffing issues, right? So those are some of the things. There's a laundry list of things, but those are some of the things that we're hearing now at the forefront.
And very similar issues to what Ayana said. One of the biggest things that we also hear is transportation. So transporting, the children to and from daycare, but then also going to work. So that could be a big challenge, and the flexibility that businesses really want to offer to moms and working dads. But it might be difficult for them to say, hey, I can let you out, as Ayana mentioned, midday, because the school is closed due to weather conditions. So again, it's a challenge. There's of course many things that we hear, but I would say that one of the other areas is transportation that we do hear.
So restaurants are an industry where we cannot work from home. We are here to serve the community. I talked a little bit about statistics in this industry. We are 69% women in front of the house. That helps with childcare because women in serving positions, bartenders, they make a lot of money. Sometimes they can work 3 days a week and make full-time wages with some people. That's very different when we get to the back of the house, where about 20% of women make up cooks and chefs. And as women, listen, this is not an easy industry, people, and it's a young person's industry, childbearing age. But we have a lot of women, especially who aspire to be chefs and operators and general managers of restaurants who take a step back during bearing years, so they can't advance. We have another challenge in this industry is that back of the house positions right now are being filled by people from different countries. And that is creating problems and challenges when it comes to care. Again, we are not 9-to-5 jobs. We have a very difficult time advancing women and all families. Listen, this just doesn't fall upon women. It's men, it's managers, it's families. But with an industry that's 60% women who I'm really passionate about advancing, this issue becomes very important. I know Yvonne talked a little bit about transportation. It all fits within the benefits cliff conversation. We have people who seek to advance in our industry with more hours or to take on apprenticeship positions. We have registered apprenticeship or managers, but we refuse or cannot. And it's very frustrating for economic development and for operators who always say the top 1, 2, and 3 challenges is finding a workforce. But as they make more money, they lose benefits, and they can. And it's not because people are lazy, that's crap. It's because they're making business decisions for their families every day. And as wages go up, that's a good thing, but it creates artificial challenges we have to try to solve. So again, super passionate about that, and it's a big challenge for our industry. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And some of you might have been at the Women's Caucus last year where Carrie had some members talking about this issue of the benefits cliff. And just to explain it a little bit more, right? Families who make up to 200% of the federal poverty level can qualify, only up to $150 for state-funded pre-K, but up to $200 for purchase of care. If they make 5 cents more, they go from having child care covered to not having anything covered. And there's a huge gap there between about $60,000 until you're making well over 6 figures where you can afford child care as part of your household budget. So you had some members speaking about, we would love to hire these people more hours, we'd love to give them an increase, and in some cases did, and then that had devastating consequences.
Yeah, and I think it's a great conversation. Remember, those poverty wages are set at the federal level. So it's listen, as states raise wages, which I think is good, right? That's a public policy debate. Federal poverty is based on the federal minimum wage and those issues. So it really just adds a lot of challenges and conflict as we're looking at those issues and that benefits cliff.
I think it's just so important, Kyle mentioned talking about the dollars and cents of it, and you've all talked about how your businesses want to expand, they want to stay open, they want to grow, they want to work non-traditional hours, but if their workforce doesn't have childcare, they can't do that. They can't grow our economy, they can't grow our state budget, all the things that we all want to happen. So that's why it's so important to have this conversation. Ayana, do you want to add?
Yeah, I want to add that the benefits cliff is keeping our communities in this generational poverty cycle. It's really hurting our communities because, like Carrie was saying, it's not that folks are lazy. It's like, okay, do I want these extra hours? Do I want this extra pay? And lose my benefits? Is it worth it? It's not. So at the end of the day, like, how do we break this cycle of poverty in our community? Thinking outside the box, and it's a real issue.
Great point. Yeah, we had a child care provider here in Dover tell one of her workers, her child care workers that we all need, educators, say, no, we can't promote you right now because, you're going to get purchase of care, but we'll promote you. She's had employees that she said, give back the promotion until your child is working age. That is not what we want for families. We want economic mobility. We want them contributing to the tax base and all those things. So absolutely.
And it's affected moms, primarily. I'm going to say that. And, I'm really partial to women. If you want something done right, you get a woman to do it. So, I love the men. I'm not one of those, I don't need a man. But if you need this job done correctly, get a woman. And we're hindering, women and their growth, their earning potential, and all the things. And it's really saddening.
So Ayana asked what we can do to make the benefits cliff less steep, and hopefully you all have a folder with this, and this is the QR code to the talking points. But one of the things that we can do, that other states have done, is increase that 200%, and then increase the length of time families who do qualify are on the benefit. So most of our neighboring states are at 250 and 300. So Delaware has a long way to catch up here. If you're looking to move to Delaware and you're looking at what can I access and where am I going to get pre-K for my kids and where am I going to get child care, we are not competitive right now.
And can I just add to that point?
Yeah.
Because that is something that we hear quite frequently, especially with the economic kind of ecosystem, right? Where businesses that want to move to Delaware or want to move to Newcastle County, and if they are, one of the biggest things that they think about is childcare, right? Especially if they have little ones. So of course, education overall, and that's a big struggle for us right now. And I know to hear the governor and lieutenant governor, it's great that we're heading in that right direction, but there's just so much work to be done. And it really, because small businesses are the economic driver of the state. And that is the biggest need right now is, as Ayana said, a lot of women-owned businesses are thriving in the state of Delaware and in Newcastle County, and it's only going to continue to grow. So we do have to meet the needs of what is being requested as business consider moving to Delaware as well.
Absolutely, and you talked about non-traditional hours, and often family child care providers. Do we have any family child care providers here? They are all doing the work, so let's honor them. They are often the only ones that provide non-traditional hours. care, which is what a lot of our small businesses, especially hospitality, needs. They're also the ones closing at the fastest rate. So I think we've had between 10 and 20% of our family child care centers close in the last decade, and since COVID, people retiring, not going into the business. We're not giving them an incentive. We're not paying them enough to keep their business open, and we're not giving them an incentive to offer that non-traditional care. So that's another thing we can do that other states do, give an incentive to those non-traditional off-hours care to make sure people are offering it. Did you want to add to that?
No, I think it's really important, and especially, Yvonne, you can speak really well and deeply about Newcastle County, but I know we also talk about the beach area and that the equity and the subsidy or the purchase of care for Sussex County. Restaurants are the #1 employer in Sussex County, the #1 employer and the economic driver. So that becomes more important. Healthcare is very important down at the beach as well. So those non-traditional hour opportunities for family care is important. And Ayana, you talked about business owners, small business women specifically. In our industry, women make up almost 50%. They either own or co-own restaurants as compared to 37% of other industries. So from a percentage perspective, we have a higher percentage of business ownership or co-ownership and entrepreneurship amongst women. From a brown or Latino, Hispanic community, the people coming in, listen, we're the great American dream. And when people come in from other countries, a lot of restaurants specifically are Hispanic-owned food businesses, food truck to brick and mortar. So we want to continue to be a place in Delaware where we're building that economic American dream, not only for our families, but our communities. And so this issue becomes so important in all communities. We talk about equity, specifically in restaurants. That's super important from the ground up.
Yeah, we're going to hear more about Sussex County, but I want to share something about we've heard from BB Health that they've had multiple doctors accept jobs, which is hard to recruit doctors to Sussex County, and then not move to Delaware because they cannot find a place for their child to go. So we need this for so many different industries and so many parts of our economy. Yeah. Do you see your members and employers in Delaware doing creative things, and what do you think we can help? How can we help employers support their employees?
I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is, and I'll speak for even my team in general that have young children, but is really the hybrid approach, right? But early childhood, it is difficult to do that. But for businesses that, women that work in the corporate world or that have that opportunity to take advantage of the hybrid model, but that is probably the biggest thing. They want to offer flexibility. One of the biggest things that I've heard some businesses start doing is a mental health day for moms. Just mental health day for their employees in general. So they have been offering that as well. I give my team one mental health day a month. And that is very critical because of the amount of, things that moms we have to endure, or even if you're just a young professional trying to make it through, right, because of our housing crisis right now. So there's so many factors that go into play into that, and I think those are some of the perks that I think they're trying to offer.
Right, this is like a dramatic effect, and everyone should probably be standing. My friends, we are in community together. We show up and we belong in this space, and I appreciate everyone being here every day for that reason. Thank you, and have a great rest of your
I'm just stepping in real quick to say what Lieutenant Governor Caitlin O'Connor quite yet said earlier is true. It is very unusual. Guys, don't leave yet, quite yet. I'm not saying. I know. Yeah, one step. Thank you, because Daisy is here representing providers, but oftentimes providers can't be here. And you guys were able to leave today under your leadership, which we appreciate so significantly. But we also know that there's a lot of work to be done for y'all too. We're working on it. We're advocating for it. We want those pay scales to go up. We know the need that is there. We know the hours that are being worked. And we appreciate that, Gail, the collaboration, the continued communication. And I just want you to know that, like, on every tough day, for every tough conversation, we see you when we hear you too.
All right, we are going to welcome our next panel. Oh, and thank you all for being here. We're sorry to see you go. We appreciate you. All right, so come on up.
I guess it's my turn. I just took a second.
Hello. Are you guys all set?
Yes.
All right. So, I'm Kirsten Olson. I am the CEO at Children and Families First, and you got to meet a couple of members of my team who operate our resource and referral helpline, among about 1 million other things. And at CFF, our whole goal, everything that we do, is focused around helping kids and families thrive. And as you've heard today, early childhood is where the best work happens. We know that those first 5 years are so crucial for building the brains and bodies of kids to set them up for success for a lifetime, and that's why we're so committed to early childhood, because we know that it's the foundation for thriving. And so I'm really happy to be here. I'm moderating this panel, and I'm going to ask our panel, which is a great group. We have providers, we have parents, we have some folks entering the field, and we're going to talk about our experiences. So I'm going to ask you first to just introduce yourselves and tell everyone why you're here today.
Okay, hi, good morning. I'm Diariam Robinson. I currently attend Delaware State University. I am a junior majoring in pre-education, birth through second. So this is just important and an honor to be here, to be able to advocate. This is something that I'm very passionate about and something that I look forward to creating a future and being able to just speak up for those who can't. I want to speak for the families who can't help themselves, and I want to speak for the students who can't either. So that is why I'm here.
So my name is Melanie Thomas Price, and I own the Leap of Faith Child Development Center, which is in Wilmington, Delaware. I am licensed for about 166 kids at one time. I've been in business since 2004 now. So I've been able to see a couple of administrations. Amen. We've been doing this for a while now. And just to give you some backdrop after listening to everyone, I remember I started out as a teacher. I had taught first, second, fourth, and fifth grade. And I saw a societal problem while teaching. I saw that my entire classroom had single mothers. And the majority of my class was special education. And I learned that those mothers needed help before school age. So that was my mission. That was the reason why I left public school. And that was many years ago. I saw a need, and that need was that single mothers at the time, they needed help before school age. I remember every one of those meetings that I would go to concerning No Child Left Behind. And many times, the child left behind was African American boys. So my drive was to leave the school district, and it took a leap of faith. That's the reason why I named my center a leap of faith. It really took a leap of faith for me to leave the center, to leave the school district where I was making pretty good money. I was off on summers. So it took a lot for me to leave, but I did leave, and I'm so glad I did today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ann Atkinson. I am the owner and administrator down in Sussex County for Little Red Hen Nursery and Preschool. I basically started in the education field since 1982, so I've been around a long time. I started as a teacher back in New York. We moved to Maryland and started working in Delmar, Delaware at Little Red Hen in 1988. And at that time, it wasn't as large as it is now. We have limit of 139, but we're licensed for 217. We would never go to 217. But my husband and I purchased the building and Little Red Hen itself in 1999. And that's when I stopped being the working director and became the administrator and owner of everything. And I miss being in the classroom, but I love seeing those little ones daily and working with the parents. But the best thing for us down in our little town of Delaware is that many of the children that are coming to us have parents who came to us when they were young. So we know we're doing something right, and we just want to continue that. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Benson. I'm a proud mama of a 4-year-old pre-K student at Lake Forest East Elementary. Her name is Music, and I just love her so much. I'm your, I guess, just a mama, local bartender, front of the house server at 2 part-time establishments. You know, I find myself working maybe 12 to 17 days straight sometimes, all the while trying to maintain my baby's schedule. So I just stand in representation, I guess, of mamas who are struggling to maintain their schedule along with their child's schedule, and then, you know, weighing out budgets to just help her flourish, I guess, pre-K.
And just to be clear, there is no such thing as just a mama.
I'm just a senator.
I'm going to ask this question to Melanie and Ann, and then I'm going to ask the other panelists to kind of weigh in. What are you hearing from the families that you serve around their issues with childcare, finding childcare, waiting lists, costs? What kinds of things are coming up with your families?
Well, especially down in Delaware, we are the only center in Delaware, and we are working with 2 states. So we have Delaware, and Delaware, Maryland. So we're dealing with about 6,000. About 6,000 is the population, but the parents who cannot receive purchase of care are on the Maryland side. So we end up losing those children because Maryland and Delaware, of course, do not work together. The other major problem that we're seeing is that there isn't enough infant care. We're fortunate. We have a building where right now we have 8 infants. We can also take an extra 4 if we have qualified staff. But I have 16 families waiting to come in for infant care. So that's one of the major issues that we're seeing down our way.
And we're seeing a lot of the same thing. What I've seen in Wilmington is 3 of the biggest centers in the city have closed. And that's a lot of children that are looking for care. So we have been getting a lot of calls about, you know, families trying to access quality care. And many times we cannot take them because we are full as well. So that is not easy, especially when you look at the amount of centers that are beginning to close. So we're taking a look at those kind of things. I've been getting a lot of calls from parents with children with disabilities, and they cannot find adequate care. I had a family that called me last week, a mother, and she said, you know, I had my child at a center, and he just didn't do well. And I heard a lot about you, and I wanted to see if you had any space available. She said, you know, I felt when I dropped him off that they just didn't want him there. And it may not have been that they didn't want him there necessarily, but many teachers may not have the skill set oftentimes to manage a lot of our children with disabilities. And there are many more children that we're seeing right now with autism that are coming in, and the families really need the support. The mother, she even stopped in after a while. I sat down with her because I couldn't take him either. We just didn't have the space. And I made some calls for her, and I felt so bad because she said, I really want to keep my job. I don't want to have to lose. And I'm getting a lot of those kinds of calls where the families are looking for help. And you know what? Some of them really don't want them in a mainstream child care center. They want specific care for their children. And there just isn't any specialized places for that community.
And Andrea, I'm wondering what your experience as a parent. It sounds like you work some non-traditional hours. How has that made your life harder, easier? What have your experiences been?
So I find myself just working evenings, starting from about 4 p.m. till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. My baby gets up for school at 7:30 in the morning. And I'm just grateful that like you were talking about the hardships of how just to get my baby into some sort of program, and I feel like I had to go through leaps and bounds. And I'm grateful, you know, to hearing stories of other people who can't really find a spot. I'm grateful that I found a spot, and I guess I found myself qualified to do so. Yeah, so working 2 jobs and then struggling, staying up late, and just maintaining a schedule, like I said, my schedule and my baby's schedule. I mean, it's a struggle, but I'm a super mama.
Just a super mama. We obviously have been advocating at this work for a long time, and you've heard from some esteemed folks here who've been doing the work for years and years. And we are very grateful to policymakers for the progress that we've made, and I think we've commented, but you know, how fortunate are we that we had both the governor and his little person and the lieutenant governor and Congresswoman McBride, all of them really expressing how important this issue is to them and showing up for us as we go to do our advocacy. And so I'm wondering what you all have experienced relative to some of those policy wins that we've had. So things like increased access to state-funded pre-K, statewide purchase and care rates, how that has improved or changed the work that you do.
I will say this, that I don't know what my center would do. I did say that I don't have any married couples in my center. It is all single mothers. I don't know what I would do without state-funded pre-K. I don't know what I would do without EHS. I would not be able to do it. I have not lost a staff in over 2 years. I have not lost one, and it all contributes to being a vendor for those programs. Now, I will say this, the mean in Delaware is a little over $28,000 for teachers, ECE teachers. That's what they make a year. Because I am in these programs, I'm able to pay my teachers right around $40,000, closer to $50,000. That's not a whole lot, but it's a lot more than a little over $28,000. And yes, put your hands together. That has made all of the difference, along with the benefits. And they're not the type of benefits I received when I was working at DuPont, or even in the school district, but there are benefits that they are receiving. Some of the bonuses, they have all made a difference, and people are staying. I have to toot their horn. Many of them they either have a college degree, they're working towards a college degree. Everybody in the center has a CBA, all but one, and you work with her, she's just about done. And then the entire center. I'm saying that to say this. Being in these programs have made all of the difference. Now, if that changes, I'm going to have to make some big changes. Look, going back cannot be an option.
No, it cannot.
We cannot allow it to be an option. Going back to where we were post-COVID, we can't allow it. We are all going to have to come together, whatever we're going to need to do. Like we're all together today, we're going to have to say no. There are some things that we're going to have to stand up to. And quality childcare is one.
Yeah, I totally agree with Melanie. What I've noticed, we were suffering with purge to care for the longest time down in Sussex County. We were fighting and fighting year after year after year. And God bless, this year it's made such a difference. And we hope that will continue. With my families, it's sad to say that when they do get a promotion or they get a couple of pennies or quarters, they don't take it because they will lose their purge to care. And then once that happens, then we lose them, and those children are not benefited by a quality education. So it's so important that we really advocate to keep the money coming to help not only us as providers, but our families, especially down in Sussex County. I know Tony Dickerson, who is one of our colleagues, she really wanted me to talk a little bit about the services. We definitely need the services to stay down our way. It's so hard now with all the children, who are looking for care, and especially we have several of our autistic little ones in our care. And to be able to have that speech and language, and to be able to have the early health mental consultant come in and work with us, it's so important that we have the opportunity to make that phone call and have them there, and not 2 months later. We need them when we call them. There's a reason why we're calling, and we don't want to say, listen, we can't handle your child anymore. We go far beyond to help these little ones. So it's so very important that these services stay and continue down our way, as well as for Kent and Newcastle.
Thank you. So, Diarra, you are our fresh-faced early childhood student. We're so happy to have you here and in the field. And I wanted to ask you, you've heard a lot about some of the challenges and some of the things that have gotten better. When you think into the future of your career as an early childhood educator, what do you hope looks different?
Well, first, let me just start by saying that I have gotten the amazing opportunity of meeting a lot of different people at Delaware State University, a lot of people who are just as passionate about early child care and early childhood students as I am. I just went through the process of TEP program where we had to talk about our experiences and our different things that we've gone through and seen to help us further our career. And let me just tell you guys that there's a lot of amazing future educators that are coming to you soon. So I can first put that out there and kind of help ease you guys and ease those parents who might be worried about who's going to be in their child's classroom in the future, that we are working very hard. I am meeting a lot of hardworking women and men who are trying to become a future educator, not only in early childhood, but throughout the school programs everywhere. The thing that I'm most passionate about is speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves. So hearing all the different point of views from the governor and like you guys, I mean, you guys are amazing to even go out there and take that leap of faith to try to get into this career field. It's very hard, and I don't think that we get enough recognition for what we do. And I definitely name myself as an early care provider, so definitely to see a difference in pay, to see a difference in how far students get with their learning. I mean, it's important, like you said, at the ages from 0 to 5 to pick up on the different things that they're learning. We have to take all these different classes once getting our degree to learn all the different steps that students are going through. So my future looks bold, it looks bright.
We love that. We can't wait to meet all of your friends that you're bringing with you. And Andrea, I have one last question for you. You talked a little bit about some of the challenges of accessing care, and you feel like you were lucky because you were able to navigate it. But what have been some of the benefits that you've seen for you and music in actually being able to have that high quality early childhood experience?
I'm grateful for every educator in here, first of all. So I love that to follow you. Like, I'm grateful, just knowing what I had to go through with my daughter. Come 2.5, 3 years old. She had, speech issues. She couldn't really communicate at all. And I don't know if my expectations were too high, but I'm Googling all the milestones of like where she should be. So I felt like I was, rightfully concerned, So I tried to reach out to local daycare centers, but they were like, oh, this much money, and I was like, oh, that's a lot. So, and then I was like, well, let me try, like a local family member who'll charge like $40 a day, but that times 5, that's like a weekly electric bill, So then finally I just walked into a state service center, and I was like, I just want to expand her social standing, her, just being out in the world. She is an only child also, so it's like, I just felt like she had to learn from students around her, but I had to figure out, like, how am I going to get her into these facilities? So, our next step was to have a speech therapist come in, but, that was like 45 minutes per week. And that failed, so then I guess that further qualified me to go ahead and get her into educational program pre-K. Now my baby can tell you who's on the $1 bill. She's a genius. Like, just leaps and bounds. She can tell you where every family member lives in Felton, Frederica, Lincoln.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm just proud of her. She went from here to like a genius.
Just to say that I grew up in a single parent household, so watching my mom work hard, I wasn't in a daycare. Me and my brother weren't put in a daycare. We were at my grandparents. And thinking about people who don't have those types of family members who are nearby to help. If you are married and both parents have to go to work, what are you supposed to do about your child? Right. So just to say that even the parents, you guys you're owed a lot too, because you do so much to make sure that your child gets as far as they do. And kudos to you for going out and doing what you had to do. Because here she is now being able to give all this information, and that's another one of the things that I want to see for the future is that you go from not knowing enough to knowing everything. That's the most important thing that any educator would want to see and any parent would want to see. So, yes.
Thank you all for sharing your amazing perspectives. Don't get done yet. We're going to open it up to the audience. Do you all have questions for the panel or comments that you'd like to share with all of us in the room today? We'd love to hear from you. John.
Yeah, I guess I've been doing as all of you have, this advocacy work for 5 or 6 years, and we have made each one of those steps along the way. I'm glad to participate with all of you in making them. I'm very concerned about this year. I mean, we couldn't have more sympathetic governor and lieutenant governor. But with these challenges from Washington and everything else that's going on, everybody is, the Joint Finance Committee and the governor's recommended budget, there's no extra money at all, as far as I know, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, Madeline or whoever's knows, but I don't think there's any extra money for early child care and education this year. And I think that when we talk to our legislators, we have our talking points, but number one is don't you dare go back. And two, don't you dare leave absolutely nothing when we have the case that this is the best investment you could possibly make. It's a tough year for everybody. We're somebody in ECE.
Does anybody want to follow Dawn, or should we let that be our mic drop moment?
I just have a question for Diarium. Hi.
Yes, it is.
It's not really a question, well, it is a question as an adjunct for early ed. I taught here at DSU for a few semesters. One of the things I saw with the students is they're very passionate about teaching, but how much do they understand about their need to be advocates as they continue to grow as professionals? What are your thoughts on that?
So, okay. We had a event where there were panelists just like this, and we talked about the DIE, I think is how you say it. I don't want to say it wrong, I'm sorry. And all education majors had to be there for that conversation. Our professors, Dr. Rouser, they all push us to go out and advocate for those who can't. And I didn't really know what to expect when I first started coming to DSU. But once I really got into the curriculum that I had to take and the different things that I had to learn, the people that I got to meet, it was just amazing to see, because just like being here today, I guess I never really thought about how many people were actually out there trying to help those who can't help themselves. And they are preparing us big time.
Good.
And to know that there is so much more going on. I mean, a lot of the education majors were talking about it, and we're like, you know, like, we're not prepared for this, going out into a world like this. Like, we don't know about this. But we actually are getting the preparation, the different advice, the different inspiration that we need, not only from our professors, but from people just like you who are able to give us the information, the experiences that you guys have all going through, so that we can know how to better move about a situation going into the future. So I really do think that we are very prepared, and if we're not prepared, we are getting there to where we can further help everyone as best as we possibly can.
Great.
Can I add to that? You know, as I was speaking to her, because we were talking a little earlier, and I said, you know what drives you, you know, to even go into early care and education? Just knowing what we have to offer. And I said, so what will you do when you finish? She said, well, I will probably go and teach second grade, first or second grade. And she said, but later on I want to open my own center, which is wonderful, okay? But here's the question that I like to pose. How do we get some of these students excited about coming into ECE?
Raise the salary.
Well, of course, you know we have to go there, but how do we even get them with the salaries? And I'm an outlier, and I'm really not paying much in the grand scheme of things, but when you have a mean of a little over 28,000, how do you get these students that she said is really excited about going in the field, excited about coming to us?
Well, can I just say that?
Tell the truth.
Can I just say that we are also prepared to know that this is not a field that you go into for the pay. And I can say that saying that I've worked in childcare, I've worked at a daycare for 2 years, I've helped out at the lab school. For us, it's just the passion. And that's what I love, because you want to go into work being happy about what you're doing. And I know that I don't want to go into my future career being upset, being mad, being stressed. And I know that it's stressful. I know it's a stressful field, but we don't do it for the money. We are prepared to do it just because this is what we want to do. We decided to go out of high school into college, taking on this big plan of the different things that we have to offer and the different things that we want to offer. And just hearing about the different things that people don't get, this is more of a reason why we do things like this. And I hope that in the future that a lot more education majors will be here so that we can all, fellowship with you guys and just talk and connect about the different things that are going on, because we are the future. We are. We're next up. And to know that we have people and footsteps to follow like you guys, that's just something that we're prepared for and we are preparing for. And I promise you guys, we're coming.
I love that mindset, but we also need to be able to pay them what they're worth. Okay? Out of fairness.
How are we on time, Ellen?
One more question.
One more question. I saw a hand in the back.
Good morning, everyone. I'm kind of loud. My name is Ashley S.K. Davis. I'm with Delaware Institute for Arts and Education in Delaware Wolf Trap. Hello, Dr. White. Yes. And so we do not provide direct services to children, but rather we partner with different schools and Head Start centers to provide teacher professional development. So we've been kind of looking at all of the shifts that have been happening on the federal level, and we recognize the challenges that we've heard from our peers and our partners. And what is my question? The arts are also at this intersection. DIA lives at this intersection of arts and education. And so we are constantly looking at the ways in which we know that early childhood education and the process of art making are both essential to make sure that communities are thriving. And also, those are often the first things that are on the chopping block, which is the reason why we're here today to help support the efforts by the DAC. Even though we want to advocate loudly and strongly, the reality is we kind of have to be ready for what the next step might look like. I know many of the child care centers are just recovering after COVID, just getting students back in, just getting staff back in, because as you said, it doesn't pay well, and that is the truth of it. Right. In the event that things at the national level don't shake down the way that we think that we'd like to understand, in the event that things don't get shifted from Governor Meyer's budget and markup by Joint Finance Committee, what is the worst case scenario that you all see? And what do we need to do as not only service providers, but also as kind of peer organizations and advocates? What do we need to do to undergird ourselves based on what you all are seeing and feeling? So that's a little bit of a challenge, but